Here's every major angle grinder disc explained and exactly what each one is for. Cutting disc. The cutting disc is a thin, flat abrasive wheel, usually between 1 and 2 millimeters thick, and it is designed to slice through metal, steel pipe, rebar, bolts. If it is metal and you need to cut it, this is the disc. That thin profile is the whole point. It is not built to grind or scrub the surface. It is built to cut through it in a straight line. The moment you try to use it sideways or apply any lateral pressure, you are asking it to break, and it will break. These discs are spinning at thousands of revolutions per minute, and a shattered cutting disc sends fragments in every direction. Never use a cutting disc for grinding. Let it do its one job, straight cuts, forward pressure only. The discs are typically made from aluminum oxide abrasive bonded together with fiberglass reinforcement. That reinforcement is what keeps it from flying apart under load. Always check the RPM rating on the disc before you mount it. That number has to meet or exceed the RPM of your grinder. If it does not, you are running an unsafe setup before the tool even touches the material. Grinding disc. Where the cutting disc is thin and delicate, the grinding disc is thick and aggressive, usually 6 millimeters or more. This one is not for cutting. It is for removing material from the surface of metal, smoothing down a weld, shaping a piece of steel. It uses the face of the disc, not the edge, and it works at a low angle to the workpiece, typically around 15 to 30 degrees. When you find that sweet spot, let the abrasive do the work. Do not force it. Forcing it generates heat, wears the disc unevenly, and fatigues the material. Like cutting discs, these are typically aluminum oxide abrasive. Grit is something that refers to the coarseness of the abrasive particles bonded into the disc. Think of it like sandpaper. The lower the number, the rougher and more aggressive the surface. A low grit tears through material fast. A higher grit is finer and leaves a smoother finish behind. Coarser grits like 24 to 36 are for heavy stock removal. If you are just cleaning up a weld and want to leave a better surface, step up to 60 grit. These are your workhorse metal discs. Every fabrication shop runs through them constantly. Flap disc, flat face look completely different from grinding wheels. Instead of a solid bonded abrasive, they are built from overlapping layers of abrasive cloth called flaps, arranged around a central hub in a fan pattern. As the outer layers wear down, fresh abrasive is constantly being exposed. That is what makes them last so much longer than a standard grinding disc and deliver a more consistent finish throughout their life. The flat face version sits level to the workpiece. It works best at a very low angle, 0 to 15 degrees. This geometry makes it ideal for smoothing flat surfaces, blending a weld into the surrounding metal so it disappears, preparing a surface before painting or coating, getting a consistent finish across a large flat area. Where a grinding disc leaves scratches, a flap disc leaves something that actually looks finished. Grit matters here the same way it does with sandpaper. 40 to 60 grit for heavier material removal, 80 grit for blending, 120 grit when you want a surface that is ready for primer or a top coat. The abrasive material matters too. Zirconia and ceramic flap discs cut cooler and last significantly longer than standard aluminum oxide on steel. Flap disc angled face. This is the other flap disc and it is not interchangeable with the flat version even though it looks similar at a glance. It has a conical shape, the flaps angle upward, which changes how it contacts the surface. It works at a steeper angle to the workpiece, 15 to 25 degrees, and it is more aggressive because more abrasive is in contact at one time. That geometry makes it the right tool when the surface is not flat. Curved surfaces, contoured profiles, anywhere you need the disc to follow a shape rather than skim across a flat plane. It also removes material faster than the flat face one, which makes it useful for more significant stock removal before switching to a finer grit for finishing. If you are working flat, use the flat face. If the surface curves or you need faster removal, use the angled face. They look similar enough that people grab the wrong one without realizing it and then wonder why the finish or performance is not what they expected. Segmented diamond blade. Now you are into a completely different category of disc. Diamond blades do not work like abrasive discs at all. There's no grinding wheel wearing itself down. Instead, industrial diamonds are embedded in a metal bond matrix along the rim of the blade. As the blade cuts, the bond matrix slowly erodes, continuously exposing fresh diamond grit. The diamonds do the cutting. The segmented version has gaps cut into the rim. Those gaps do two critical things. They allow heat to escape so the blade does not overheat during dry cutting, and they clear debris out of the cut so the blade is not bogging down in its own dust. This is your blade for hard, abrasive outdoor materials: concrete, stone, brick. It cuts fast, it handles the aggressive abuse of masonry work, and it can do it dry. The trade-off is that those gaps will chip the edge of anything delicate. Tile, marble, porcelain. Do not use a segmented blade on those. You will destroy the edge. Diamond blade, continuous rim, same diamond technology, completely different rim. The continuous rim blade has no gaps. The cutting edge runs all the way around without interruption. That unbroken contact is what allows it to produce a smooth, chip-free cut on materials that would shatter under the hammering action of a segmented blade. This is for granite countertops, porcelain tiles, glass. Anything where you need a clean edge and the material is brittle enough to crack or chip if you abuse it. The continuous rim is gentler on the material at the cost of being slower and generating more heat. Because there are no gaps to dissipate heat, this blade should typically be used with water. Wet cutting extends the blade life and prevents the blade from overheating. Keep it simple. If the material is rough and structural, use the segmented blade. If the material is finished, decorative, or prone to chipping, use the continuous rim carbide wheel. This is an often overlooked disc that opens up the angle grinder to a whole category of materials it was not originally built for. The carbide wheel is a toothed disc, usually with 3 to 6 tungsten carbide teeth, and designed to cut and shape wood, plastic, laminate, and similar materials. Most angle grinder discs are extremely dangerous on wood. Standard abrasive discs grab, kick back, and can throw material violently. The carbide wheel solves this with controlled cutting teeth that shave rather than abrade. The result is actual wood shavings rather than dust clouds, and a cutting action you can actually control. It is useful for rough shaping, notching, trimming, removing material from a piece of lumber or beam quickly without setting up a saw. It also works on plastic and laminate flooring where you need to make a cut and a saw would be overkill or awkward. It is not a precision instrument. It is a fast, aggressive material remover. For detail work in wood, there are more specialized carving discs with rasp-style carbide teeth that give better control, but for straight, aggressive cuts and shaping, the carbide wheel is the go-to. Do not use wood cutting discs on metal. Do not use metal cutting discs on wood. That is a rule with no exceptions. Wire wheel, wire cup. Wire wheels are in a category of their own. No abrasive material, just metal wire bristles spinning at high speed with the tips of the wires doing the work. They strip surface contaminants, rust, old paint, weld scale, without removing significant base metal underneath. The wires break off microscopic fragments as they contact the surface, and as they wear, fresh wire tips are constantly being exposed. There are two fundamentally different wire configurations, and understanding the difference matters. Twisted knot. The wires are bundled and twisted together into stiff, aggressive knots. This is the heavy-duty option. It removes thick rust, heavy scale. It is aggressive enough that it will scratch and mar the base metal surface. Use it when you need to get down to clean metal, and the surface condition of the metal does not matter. It also comes in a cup shape, a twisted knot cup, which covers more surface area and works well for cleaning large flat surfaces or heavy weld crowns. Crimped. The individual wires are bent or wavy rather than bundled into knots. This makes them more flexible, less aggressive, more conforming. A crimped wire wheel is for lighter work, cleaning light surface rust, deburring edges, removing dirt, and oxidation. It leaves a more consistent finish than the twisted knot and is the right tool when you care about what the surface looks like after. One critical rule that is not obvious: never use a carbon steel wire brush on stainless steel. The steel wire embeds microscopic iron particles in the stainless surface, and those particles will rust within days. Use a stainless steel wire brush on stainless work. Keep them separate. Contaminating stainless steel with a carbon steel brush is an easy mistake that ruins the material. Polishing pad. Polishing pad is where the angle grinder crosses over into finishing work. The disc itself is soft, foam, wool felt, or microfiber. and it works with a polishing compound rather than cutting on its own. The pad carries the compound across the surface in controlled, consistent passes that remove fine scratches and leave a smooth, reflective finish. Wool felt is the most aggressive of the three. It removes scratches faster and works well on metal. Stainless steel, aluminum, chrome. Foam is gentler, better for painted surfaces and final stage polishing where you want to bring up a glossy finish without cutting further into the material. Microfiber is a middle ground, and it cuts and polishes at the same time, which makes it a good one-step option. Speed matters more with polishing pads than almost any other disc. Most polishing applications want lower speeds, around 3,000 to 4,000 revolutions per minute. A variable speed grinder makes this much easier. At full speed on a standard grinder, a polishing pad generates heat fast, and heat burns the compound and can damage the surface. Let the pad and the compound do the work. Light pressure, slow overlapping passes. The moment you start forcing it, you are creating more problems than you are solving.